Hello, friends. Today I get the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Jen Hoffman. I have known her, oh, I don't know, about a year maybe. Um, we have been into the same, well, I shouldn't say the same, but similar spiritual work. We follow um, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and that's kind of how we got connected through a mutual friend through there. And Jen has been a wonderful light in my life, just through different avenues, through the healing groups that we were in together, and just as a friend. So, Jen, I will hand it over to you and let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. I'm so excited to be here. Um, it's a pleasure always when we get to speak, and it feels like it's been too long, even though it feels like we have connected in recent months too. Um, but yeah, I'm so incredibly excited to be here, and I find you to be so inspirational and your story to be so uplifting and healing for women and, even beyond women, just humans in general. So I'm so glad we've connected, and I'm excited to share my story here. So, like you said, we connected through Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and a mutual friend. And even though we have connected in this spiritual capacity, um, that dives deep into healing work and really bringing wholeness and increasing quality of life to anyone and everybody who wants to partake in it. We kind of got there through different methods. So people who know your story know that you had, this one major incidents in your life where your whole life shifted and changed and shook up your entire world. Whereas, excuse me, my life was kind of a more gentle or gradual approach to soul searching and looking for connection and purpose and deeper meaning in life. And what I really mean by that is, I feel like I was raised in a beautiful household with a wonderful, typical American family in the suburbs and, did all the things, did all the quote unquote right things with going to school and being in extracurricular activities and then going to college and trying to set myself up for success. Yet there was this deep um, lack of fulfillment and lack of purpose in my life. And for a long chunk of time, for most of my 20s, I felt almost like I was crazy. Like I shouldn't feel this way. Like I'm blessed. Like I've been given so much. Like I'm doing all the things and trying to check all the boxes, following the standard plan of life of what is laid out there for us with flowing through school and connecting with people, getting the job. And in this feeling of unfulfillment and not connected to my purpose, I started experiencing some of my own health concerns. And that really spurred this path of healing work for me initially. So I started experiencing spells where I would pass out periodically because of the amount of stress um, that I felt. I did have some Western medical testing done on all sorts of things with my cardiovascular system, my heart, my neurological system, CT scans, everything, just checking to see, am I having seizures? What is happening? And all the doctors came back with, you're normal, just don't stress as much. And this was in my early 20s. I look back on it and I kind of laugh and reflect, like, that's great. Like, don't stress so much. But, like, how do you not stress so much? So this led me down this path of questioning everything and thinking, if I'm quote unquote normal, yet I don't feel normal and I don't feel good, then, what's happening? And that led me to changing jobs multiple times. That led me to doing a lot of personal development work. And eventually, in 2019, I can only best describe this as having a massive spiritual awakening. I was very unhappy. I was working a 9 to 5 as an engineer, and I was in a relationship with someone who it was long distance. I'm on the East Coast, he was in California. And I was just like, this is not working. Like, it was like my soul was tugging at me, saying, like, you are not aligned. You are not doing the things that really light your soul on fire. So, what are we going to do about it? And, everyone in my own personal life kind of took the traditional path, and I knew they didn't have the answers. They were in situations like me or similar. So I did the only thing I knew what to do, and that was therapy. So I started with traditional talk therapy, but I also was very, very drawn to um, this holistic type of therapy called brain spotting. And the thought behind it is that trauma is stored in different parts of our brains, and our eye positioning and eye patterning can access those areas of the brain. So, the holistic therapist I connected with, she was trained and certified in this type of work. And without me consciously knowing it at the time, these sessions I had with her, we would like talk about traumatic situations I experienced in life. And she would have me hold my eye positioning, and I'd basically sit in silence for an hour with her or more. So she basically trained me how to meditate before I even knew about Dr. Joe's work.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so while I was undergoing these sessions with her, I started having what Dr. Joe describes as mystical experiences. So the very first one, yeah, I know. The very first one I had, I was focused on the topic of grief because in my early 20s, or by the time I got to about 25, I had lost a bunch of people in my life. Like all of my grandparents were deceased at that point. A lot of animals as pets that I had growing up, and my godfather, as well as some other people who they didn't physically die, but it was not a clean, easy break from my life. Um, and in this energy of focusing on grief, um, I'm going to get mystical and dipping into the divine here a little bit. But I had this experience where I cannot describe it other than I have felt the most peace I have ever felt in my life. I went through every single person that had passed away in my life. And at the end, I was shown this vision of a man standing on a mountain, and his arms were spread wide open. He was wearing all white and had shoulder length brown hair. And when he raised his arms up from this mountaintop, there were two doves that were released and flew up into the clouds. And then all of a sudden, I was among the clouds where the doves flew, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And it gives me chills talking about it because, everyone has their own different religious viewpoints. I'm not here to, say what's
Mhm.
right or wrong or that any religion is better than the other. But I was raised Catholic, and
Yep.
to me, that representation from the divine that I received, it was it felt like Jesus, and it felt like it was given to me in that way because that's how I would know how to receive it at that point in time. Um, so being the curious type of person I am, that literally sent me down so many rabbit holes. Um, Thankfully, I had a me who was trained in this and was very in tune with spirituality herself. And she was like, this is so exciting, you're having a spiritual awakening. And she like sent me in all these different directions. But yeah, I feel like for the first time in my life with this experience, I felt connected to something much greater than me, and something that made me feel not only connected, but like loved and truly worthy of this life. And it kind of instilled this like really deep sense of purpose within, that isn't attached to what I do, like my title with a profession, or the degree I had, or who I'm friends with, or where I live, and all the stuff that is kind of created in our social constructs of life. And it's just been a beautiful experience ever since.
Wow. Okay, so like obviously, like we had talked about, like we know each other, but like I did not know really any of your story. And so this is totally blowing my mind. Like I am so fascinated right now.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, I don't share that story too often, just because um honestly I don't know why, but I think because spirituality is so broad,
Mhm.
um I don't necessarily want to drag or connect a certain religion to anything, because like I said earlier, I feel like the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, angels and guides, mystical beings, they're all connected, and they're all, you know, above us and within us. So
Mhm.
it's these different religions are kind of pulling from the same thing and interpreting them, in my opinion, in slightly different ways.
Yes, I would agree. Um,
Yeah.
I want to go back to when you were describing, doing the things, checking all of the boxes, um, doing the whole school thing, getting the job, all of the things, literally. Like
Yeah.
I feel that so hard. And like, especially when you were like, and I felt crazy. Like I relate to that so deeply. Because I mean, I was in the same position at one time, like, and I think being in my situation, like the whole paralyzed thing, I think it like compounded on my feeling of feeling crazy. Um, because like
Mm,
I felt like you, like I knew there was more, and I was so unhappy and feeling like I couldn't be myself. Um, and not wanting to be seen because of the whole chair situation. That really held me back and made me feel like, I mean, to be frank, like shit for a really long time. Um, but just oh my gosh,
yeah.
just the whole checking boxes thing and feeling crazy, that really stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm obviously not glad you experienced those feelings too, but I'm glad we're talking about it, because I think they are way more common
Yeah.
and should be talked about more than how it's presented. Because I don't know, I think it starts off as when we're young, we see adults and we think, oh, like mom and dad know everything, or our
Mhm.
teachers know everything, or they have it figured out. So by the time we get out of the quote unquote student role and we're thrust out into the real world, it's kind of like, okay, I should know now, but I don't feel any different.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this self-induced pressure on ourselves to have it all figured out when we're anywhere between 18 and 22. And I think the most liberating thing we can do is acknowledge that we're never going to have it all figured out and that our whole life is a journey of learning.
Mhm.
So life will evolve with us, and there's really no there's no real end destination where it's like, here I am, I made it to the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Let me post my flag here and say I won or I did it, because there's always going to be other mountaintops and there's always going to be new things that our souls are guiding us to experience and learn from.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that whole perspective shift really enables us to find peace
Yeah.
in it. But yeah, the check in the boxes stuff is a lot, because it's not even with like jobs and school, it's like relationships too. Like there's the stigma, culturally speaking, at least I think probably in almost every culture, that like by the time you get to a certain age, like women at least should be married, because years ago like women were seen as like unfit if you didn't get married by a certain age. And
Yeah.
it's almost like this deeply program of like, you're not worthy unless a man chose you, which is so not accurate at all.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Like yeah, like you said, like it goes beyond just like the job thing. Like it's literally in all aspects of life. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it's it's like being able to see past these programs that are so deeply embedded within our culture, within societal standards. And excuse me, saying like, it's okay that if that's not the path for me, that does not, the external circumstances around me do not define my worth. They're like, I'm innately worthy as I am, and trusting, which is not always easy, but trusting that our souls are guiding us on the path that is for us in this lifetime and what our souls want to experience.
Yes. Oh boy. How do you think, I would love to know your perspective on how do you think like we get past like feeling the pressure of those societal expectations? Because I feel um
Yeah.
like I feel like deep down we all know what we want, but then those expectations are laid upon us and then it's like, oh, well, Susie from down the block is going to judge me because I don't do X, Y, and Z, or my parents are going to be disappointed in me because, I don't do whatever. Like, how do you think I don't know, how do you think we move past that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think there's, I mean, there's probably multiple ways to go about it, but I think at the core, I think the primary way that we can go about that is really connecting to our sense of self at our core, because, you know, it depends on how we're raised and how we're conditioned and how we learn to survive in life. But
Mhm.
a lot of times, at least from my perspective, I was a people pleaser. I
Mm,
didn't want to disappoint my parents. I didn't want to disappoint my teachers. I showed up in the form, and that showed up for me in the form of perfectionism. And I was like a straight A student, and I decided to go to college for engineering. And I think there was just a lot of, I was putting all of my sense of worth on what I thought others expected from me instead of actually turning within and looking at who I am authentically and what does my heart actually desire? What is my soul trying to speak to me through my heart in guiding me in this life? And really finding the courage within to kind of hit pause when I said, in 2019, hey, something's really wrong. Like, I don't know what to do from here. And I made that decision to go to therapy. Like, that was, I think, like my soul saying, hey, enough is enough. Like, it's time to stop listening to other people and you need to turn inward and listen to yourself. So I think people can do that in numerous ways, but for me, that really happened through meditation and learning how to actually sit with myself and be present with myself in silence, even though that's not always easy. But for me, that was the way that presented itself and worked for me.
Oh, geez. Being able to be with yourself, like in that silent state, just to be with yourself is, I mean, what a gift, what a skill to have, especially in this day and age when we have like all of these external things like coming at us. And I think there's such like there's a thing with being busy, I feel like. So yeah, I
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
get into that because like when I sit with myself in meditation for that hour or however long it might be, um, there are things that I just know that I just feel that I can't explain when I do that. And it's just like, holy smokes, like just being with myself, listening and trusting to what information I'm given.
Yeah. I totally hear that and relate to that. And I think, that a lot of us run on autopilot so
Mhm.
much, like checking the boxes and doing the things that we have to do on our to-do lists every day. And maybe it's not doable for someone to sit in silence by themselves for an hour,
Yeah.
especially if they're like mom with multiple kids or whatever. And, Dr. Joe teaches us too. There's multiple ways to meditate. Like even going on a walk in nature can serve
Yeah.
as meditation. Like if someone has time carved out for movement in their day, that can serve in the same way. And that even might be better for some people versus just trying to sit in silence
Yeah.
if you're constantly feeling in your body.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Um, okay, so you did the what was it called? The brain,
Brain spotting.
oh, brain spotting, that's right. Okay. So you did that
Yeah.
and then what? Then what happened? Then you had that spiritual awakening that
So, yeah. So with that experience, I felt safe enough to tell the therapist about my experience and what I saw. And then that's when she got so excited and was like, I've been meaning to tell you this, but I didn't tell you because not everyone is open to hear this or will receive it well. But she told me that she was clairvoyant, which means she can see um, beyond her physical eyes, like in the mind's eye, the third eye. And she told me that she could see people's auras, which is your energetic field. And she told me that every time I came into her office, she consistently saw that my aura was white. And she was like, that's extremely rare. Um, if that interests you, like I would research that and then we can talk about it. So I really started down the spiritual rabbit hole. And I will say, I listened to so many podcasts. Like that was my thing. I found so many intuitive podcasts with psychic mediums and like psychologists and spirituality in general. And I just started learning so much and soaking things up as a sponge. And um, I like basically turned my Instagram account into following all of these spiritual and coaches and stuff. And like synchronistically, I think sometimes when we are on a path and we have an intention and we're looking for something, yet we are not like clinging to it, the universe will like bring us certain people or things in our life to kind of help us on our path. And I connected with someone on Instagram who I had never met before in real life, but she was a spiritual coach and she offered this service called Akashic Records readings, which the Akashic Records are very similar to the quantum field, which is what Dr. Joe talks about. Um, it's like accessing all information, regardless of space and time, from the soul's perspective. Um, Within one's reach. And so she has this gift to be able to access that. And I was called to like do a reading with her, and the information she shared with me just blew me away so much that I started working with her. Like it was just excitement within my body. I knew I was meant to work with her. And we started working consistently together, and I worked with her for like, I don't know. It was well over a year, maybe close to 2 years. And she's the person who connected me then to Dr. Joe's work. So it kind of just spiraled in that, like I was continuing to meditate. I had stopped seeing the therapist at that point. Um, and I really was starting my own spiritual practice with connecting to the divine and my own guides. And I started to create a business then too, where I could help other people do this, and I can help other people learn how to meditate and tap into their Akashic records, energy healing, all of the spiritual and energy things that are supportive in connecting and aligning people with their true authentic selves and feeling this divine sense of purpose and self-worth within, really.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so funny that you had mentioned, like now I started a business because I was just like, that was what I was going to say. I was like, aren't you, that's what you like do. Like now you can help people yourself, like within the Akashic records and all of these different modalities, essentially.
Yeah, I feel so grateful that I can do this. And I like to look at it as like the pain and hardship I felt like I experienced in my throughout my whole 20s wasn't for nothing, because it ultimately led me here so that I could, not only serve myself, but I can serve other people to
Mhm.
better themselves and increase their own quality of life, because truly life isn't worth living unless if you're enjoying it and you feel good, like,
Oh my gosh,
in
yes.
some capacity.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like health truly is wealth, and part of health isn't just physical health, it's mental and emotional and spiritual. And I mean, our society is definitely getting better with mental health.
Mhm.
But I think we still have a ways to go with the emotional and spiritual aspects.
Yes, I would agree totally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, I only know a little bit like about the Akashic records. So I would love to know, like, what does that look like when working with you?
Yeah. So I offer 1 hour readings, generally speaking. I will offer like shorter readings for someone if they want like quote unquote a tune up or a follow up session. But I generally find that 1 hour is a good amount of time to really dive into what someone's soul wants to really convey to them. And I like to think of it as soul to soul communication. So I really connect just at a higher level, and I call it like your oversoul to the other person's oversoul. And what's beautiful is that things can come up regarding present day. They can come up regarding the past, whether it's in this current life or it's a past experience your soul has had prior to this lifetime. And even future potentials can come forward of what wants to be expressed with you. And I don't hesitate with saying that, but I like to preface that with like, we have free will. So
Yeah.
like nothing is set in stone with the future. This
Yeah.
is not like some like woo woo reading, like you're this is definitely going to happen. It's like, based on current circumstances, this is a strong potential for
Yeah.
something to happen, unless you wake up tomorrow and choose otherwise. Like that's totally up to you. Um, but what's beautiful about it is I always set the intention that what your soul most greatly wants you to know is what's coming through, and it's only when you're ready to hear it. Because I know so many people, I think, can have fear and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to know," or like I know someone who had a bad experience with an intuitive or a psychic medium, and it's like I'm not in the business of trying to make people feel bad or victimized or anything like that. It's truly something that's meant to empower you and to support you with where you are and where you're going.
Mm, I love that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really special. And it honestly, what's really exciting about it is it can look different every time because it's
Mhm.
like whatever your most greatly wants you to know. So it's just like how a meditation can be different each time. It's like whatever energies want to present themselves, they're gonna come through for the highest good.
Yeah. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
so fun. That's so fun. Um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So kind of closing out our conversation. Um, is there anything, because I feel like we've, gone down the path of like purpose and self-worth and that kind of thing. Is there any last words that you would love to leave our audience with?
Oh, I love that question. I feel like there's so much that I could say, and I know I summarize things at like a higher level and kind of compressed things over experiences I've had over multiple years. So I just want to say that, there is no like right or wrong timing for people. And, this stuff doesn't just happen. I mean, it can happen overnight, that's for sure, but it doesn't have to. So I hope, no one puts pressure on themselves to try to figure things out super quickly because I really think our souls feed us information and energy in like the right dosages that we can handle. It's kind of like thinking of a water faucet. And if you would turn it way open, so it would be like your system would flood and you'd feel overwhelmed. Whereas
Mm,
if you only turn it a quarter of the way, water droplets will trickle out in a stream that is more digestible for us to take and receive and move forward with. So I really think, we like to think as humans that we're in control and that we are, the ones with the reins and our minds got it down. But, there really is a divine component that is looking out for our highest good and always working for us to align us with what's best for us.
yeah. Ooh, that was good. I loved that. I don't know, are they called analogies? I don't even know what the word is, but the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
water.
like an analogy or a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. That was
yeah,
so
I don't know. That
perfect.
puts me at ease. Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have always loved listening to you talk, like, because you're so full of wisdom and I love it so much. Even like when we were talking through Telegram, when we were still connecting through there, like whenever there was a message after one of our healing sessions from you, I was just like, yes, like it made my whole entire body just so excited. So thank you for your time and your energy and sharing your wisdom today. It was so much fun and super, super appreciated.
Oh, I'm so glad, and that lights me up because that's truly all I hope to do in this world is to like be able to serve and help people for their highest good. So I'm so glad that you felt that in our conversations, and I'm so happy that I could be here, and I'd love to come back anytime you want to have me. So
Totally. Oh my God. We
thank
would
you.
so be here for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you for holding this space and having a platform where women can share their voices and just uplift one another and let, their stories be told so people know like they're not alone. Because like we said earlier, it's so easy to fall in these thoughts and spirals of I feel crazy or I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, whatever the story is we're trying to tell ourselves, but there's so many other people out there feeling it too.
Mhm. Yeah, there so is. And uh, being alone is so far from the truth. Like you are never alone. So I love that so much. Thank you again. I will put
Yes.
Jen's information in the show notes so you have somewhere to connect with her. Um, yeah, have a lovely rest of your afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole.